James West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags and we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years...
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime. I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live.
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas.
I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful?
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university. And,
yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Good morning and welcome to The Bill Press Show. I'm Sabrina Siddiqui, politics reporter at the Huffington Post, filling in for Bill this morning. Hope all of you had a great Memorial Day weekend. We're looking forward to a great show ahead of us. You can follow us live, watch us on Free Speech TV and TawkrTV. Tweet us at BP Show, and you can also watch us on Free Speech TV, which is seen on DirecTV and Dish Network. I'm going to be taking you through the next 3 hours with a little help from my friends. We've got Peter Ogburn, our executive producer.
Welcome back.
Thanks, I'm back. So
Return appearance.
I did not screw up, that means, the last time.
Good job. We're happy to have you back.
It was decent enough to get called back. We got Lisa Murphy running the board. Hey, Lisa.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. And Alicia Cruz is screening your calls, so she's the person you should call at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. And then we've got Cyprian Bolding, our video operator, who's making all of us look good right now. Well, how was your long weekend?
Good. Memorial Day weekend. It was gorgeous weather here in Washington, D.C. Went for a nice hike. I went and saw the new X-Men movie.
You did? How was it?
It was really good.
Is it?
It was really, really good. Yeah, I took the kids. It's different than the other ones because it sort of melds the old X-Men, not the old, but the previous X-Men cast with this new First Class thing. It's good. I give it a big thumbs up.
You give it a big thumbs up. That's the only endorsement you need. So you have to go watch
Go see
the
X-Men.
new X-Men.
Yeah.
I have seen none of the recent ones, unfortunately.
Come on, they're so
I
good.
I know.
They're so good.
My mom really wants to see Godzilla.
I also saw Godzilla.
Is it
horrible?
I've heard it's
horrible.
I've heard it's terrible.
It's really bad.
I've heard it's also misleading. I heard Bryan Cranston's in it for like 20 minutes.
Spoiler alert, Sabrina! You can't give away the spoiler.
I didn't say what happens.
Well, here. You're right.
What 20 minutes?
Here's the thing.
I didn't say anything. You turned it into spoiler alert.
Here's the thing. My wife, she loves Bryan Cranston. And she hates popcorn movies like Godzilla, right? So I was thinking family night, man. We're all going to go see Godzilla. Kids, my wife, everybody. She's excited to go see Bryan Cranston. I'm excited to take Bryan Cranston in the movie 20 minutes.
Exactly.
So when he exits the movie, my wife looks at me and was just mouths to me, "Are you effing kidding me?"
My understanding, he's in the last 20 minutes. He comes and he saves the day.
I'm not saying you should go see Godzilla, but I am saying that you might have a different experience
I don't think
than
we've
that.
ruined this for anyone. Let me just say. I really don't. I think we're doing people a favor. Yeah. And I do have to say, just because, right before the show, you and I noticed that CNN has some breaking news on the Malaysia airline flight.
Yeah.
What are they up to?
Look, so some data was released. The flight data, the satellite data was released. I don't know what's in it. I don't care what's in it. But CNN's all over it. Like whatever, it's just like Flight 370 News has come out, and so now it's like just
they're all
CNN
over it on these screens over there that you probably can't see over there if you're watching
Well, I was
at
just
home.
looking to see whether they have moved on from it.
Well, they were flipping through pages and pages. The host and Richard Quest, their official airline correspondent, aviation correspondent, who like the pages of flight data on camera because that makes for some exhilarating TV.
He literally came onto the screen earlier, and he had a stack of paper, and he just sort of like, look at it. Look at it, and he's like thumbing through the paper, like there's something that we can learn from that.
Yeah.
I mean,
never change CNN. But really do change.
Never change.
Well, we've got a great show ahead of us today, but first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news today. Speaking of movies, I mentioned X-Men and Godzilla. The movie Frozen continues to chug along. It has now made $1.2 billion. That makes it the fifth highest grossing movie of all time.
Wow.
Remarkably, I haven't seen the movie.
I did see that, and it was cute. I liked it. I'm going to get a lot of flack for saying this, but I thought it was just a little overrated. I do like it. I just don't know if it, like the people are talking about like all-time Disney classics. Maybe I'm just biased toward what I grew up with.
I don't.
There was like a song every 3 minutes. That's the problem.
I haven't seen
it. There was a song every 3 minutes.
That to me is a big turnoff. Like I would have a real problem going to see that. And I'll sit through some Drek with the kids, to just see some terrible movies. But I don't understand the appeal of this. I don't understand it. I don't know why it's got the love that it does.
There's a snowman named Olaf, and he's cute, and
that's it. That's the big draw.
It's about it's about sisters and the bond between sisters. So that's the nice part. It focuses on women and like relationships and female empowerment. So that's a good part of it. It's not just about a love story and a damsel in distress. But you know what? Go see it.
If nothing else, the fifth highest grossing movie
better
of
than
all
Godzilla.
Time. The fifth highest grossing movie of all time is about female empowerment. That's a good message.
It's a good
thing. Get behind that. I hope you had a good Memorial Day. Governor Martin O'Malley of Maryland had a pretty bizarre one. He decided that he was going to go down to the streets of Annapolis and busk, played his banjo and sang for crowds in downtown Annapolis, right by the water.
Really? Is this why they're shielding him from public eye?
That must be. He's in a band. He plays guitar and he plays banjo. But I, on Annapolis, on Twitter, got a picture of the governor of Maryland down on one knee in like dad shorts and sandals and a Ravens t-shirt.
This is like Oppo.
This is, and he's just out there playing. I recognize the area. It's down by the water in Annapolis. We'll tweet out the picture.
Rocking on the banjo.
I think you could single-handedly take down his future presidential campaign with this.
Yeah, just show that. Banjo music?
Yeah.
You kidding?
Dad shorts and sandals?
Dad shorts and banjos? You kidding?
I mean, even Obama's dad jeans aren't that bad. Come on.
And let's go to the sports desk where we had some playoff basketball this weekend. Last night, the Miami Heat downed the Indiana Pacers 102-90. That puts them ahead in that series 3-2. Meanwhile, on Sunday, the Spurs and the Thunder. Spurs having to face Serge Ibaka for the first time in this series, and he was the difference as the Thunder beat the Spurs 106-97. That series is tied 2-1, and it resumes this evening at 9 o'clock Eastern Time.
I have to say the difference that Serge Ibaka makes is remarkable because everyone was waiting for kind of, Durant, Westbrook, Ibaka. And I think those first 2 games, you could really see what was lacking. And this is what I was waiting to see because you want to see a competitive series.
You do want to see a competitive series. Absolutely.
Miami, I hate Miami so much. I'll give them credit. Obviously, Chris Bosh finally came to the party last night. That was huge. In a huge way. And LeBron, as much as I am not a big fan, I will not deny that he is the most talented.
He's the greatest basketball player.
Don't say of all time. In the game.
No, certainly not of all time.
I was like, wait.
He's the greatest basketball player.
I didn't know where you're going with that.
No, he's probably top 5. Easily top 5 basketball.
Oh, absolutely.
But the interesting thing that I think is that the Heat haven't really truly been tested yet in the playoffs.
Well,
they played pushover teams, and the Pacers are just sort of.
Plus, the East Coast, the Eastern Conference is pretty weak overall. There's most of the competition is within the Western Conference. So when we come to the finals, it'll be interesting to see who they face. But I think whoever they do, that'll be a much better series.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to the Heat Spurs series.
Yes.
Go Spurs.
Well, hey.
I'm a big Spurs fan.
I'm rooting for Oklahoma if I have to pick.
Okay.
KD, I think he deserves.
I hate to hear that.
Kevin Durant deserves a ring.
Okay. All right.
On that tense note over sports, we have a lot to talk about today, and we've got some great folks coming in. We'll talk about everything from the VA scandal to Benghazi to the president's trip to Afghanistan. Last night, over the weekend, I should say, late Friday night, unfortunately, there was yet another mass shooting, this time near the University of California at Santa Barbara. A 23-year-old named Elliot Rogers first stabbed 3 people to death at his apartment, and then he went on a shooting rampage. He killed 3, and then himself, and also injured several others. So here we go again.
Yeah.
But the main difference here is that he had specifically targeted women. He left behind a manifesto that was nearly 150 pages. He had disturbing YouTube videos that were later discovered. Now, we've decided not to show or play any of the audio from these videos because it's deeply disturbing. You can find them online, where he talks about annihilating women and retribution for the fact that he was rejected all of his life, talking about how women should not be even given the choice of with whom they should be able to mate because they're that stupid, talking about himself being the alpha male.
I really hate the story. I really, really, really hate the story. And there are a lot of layers to it, as we were talking in the meeting ahead of time, where we decided we weren't going to play the audio of this kid. You have the obvious gun control aspect of it, but this whole violence against women and anger against women and retribution towards women because they wouldn't sleep with him. I mean, he's a self-proclaimed 22-year-old virgin and had a lot of anger towards the fact that women rejected his advances, as if women are here to validate him and serve him and boost his ego. It's awful to know that, like, when you hear a lot of advocates for women talk about some of the attitudes that men have towards them and some of the fears that women have, to see them become validated in such an ugly way, it sucks.
It's truly
really sucks.
A really ugly way. And what's so, I think, important about this story is that this is one of the worst case scenarios when you are in a situation where a male feels rejected and he feels entitled.
Yeah.
And he feels that he has the right then to basically exact revenge on women who turned down his advances or just were not interested in him during his life. But what's so, I think, concerning is that this kind of stuff happens every day, just not on this large of a scale. There are so many crimes against women throughout the country that are underreported and really get at a man feeling as though he's entitled, feeling a sense of entitlement. And we'll definitely be talking more about it with other guests on the show, but I do think that people don't take violence against women all that seriously.
And I don't want to take away from the mental health aspect of this, because I don't think that it adds up. I don't think the equation is deny a man and they go on a killing rampage. I do think that there's a mental illness aspect, but it's like you said, it's levels.
Yes,
it's a matter of entitlement that men feel, and then when you add the mental illness to the equation, that's when things, I think, become really, really ugly. And there was an interesting thing that happened. I know hashtags and social media have sort of been made fun of a little bit here recently with hashtag activism or whatever. But there was a really interesting thing that happened on Twitter over the weekend with the yes, all women hashtag.
Yes. A lot of women sharing their stories, moments where just they felt victimized, or even just sharing what it's like to be a woman on a day-to-day basis. In fact, if you have any stories that you'd like to share as a woman, we'd love to hear them. You can call us at 866-557 press. 866-557-7355. That is the number without the press.
7377.
I can't get this right.
It's okay. 866-55-PRESS.
Everything's imploding now.
It's all right.
All right. Well, Peter has given you the right number. And in the meantime, we'll take a quick break, but we'll revisit this issue of the shooter and this conversation when we come back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You make it sound very easy to take these 90-degree turns in your career. You went from engineering to law. But there's an awful lot of people at that age who feel they're on a track, they've invested time in learning a career, and they need to see it through to the end, or maybe their parents are pushing them to stay in one route. What is your advice for a young person?
Stay away from your parents.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
My mom is a pretty spectacular human being. We essentially came to the United States as refugees. And that is when I really got to understand who my mom was as a person. Being a refugee in a foreign country, you would think that it would affect you so much. It was like my mom, nothing changed for my mom. What was really at her core and her center was always being with her kids and getting to spend time with them and making sure that they were okay and making sure that they could still go out and play soccer. I knew that if my goal was to go to Liberia and to work on economic justice so that, kids could go to school and have access to a doctor if they have malaria, that if I bet on their moms, we win.
I think I just come from a lineage of kick-ass women is all I can say. My grandmother came to this country from Mexico as a single mom with 5 children. And I, have an amazing mother who had 3 children, was going to school, working full-time. I mean, almost my story. But she did that and got her bachelor's degree at 40. And so I had a great role model. When I came home and told my mom I was pregnant, her response to me wasn't, your life is over. Her response to me is, well, I want a plan. You need to, let me know what you're gonna do about this because you're now responsible for somebody else.
I was the first one in my family to go to college, and my parents were very proud of it. They both had to work. My mom in a factory, my dad in the supermarket, and I was their success story. However, on graduation day, they said, are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be an engineer? You're going to be a businessman? What are you going to, a lawyer? He said, I'm going to join the Peace Corps. And they said, what? My parents were very much opposed to this, and it was very difficult.
How much pressure did they put on you?
Tremendous pressure. Up until we were leaving from O'Hare Airport for me to go to Peru, my mother questioning me, like, where is Peru? You've never been out of the country. What do you know? Do they have doctors? Do they speak English there? What are you going to eat? You like my cooking? I said, Mom, I'm going to be a pioneer. Why do you always have to be the pioneer? Let them do it. Let them come back, and then you go. I said, no, I want to be the first to go.
I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, so there was a lot of gang activity. And one of my friends actually was murdered on a basketball court when a 15-year-old child shot him in the back of the head. And I was just hopeless. And my mom actually, she brought me to a place of empathy for the kids who were involved in actually murdering him. Because my mom sort of said, look, where do you think those kids are coming from? And then she said, so if you're angry about it, do something. Actually change the way this world works.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to The Bill Press Show. I'm Sabrina Siddiqui, a politics reporter at the Huffington Post and filling in for Bill on this beautiful Tuesday morning. We were talking before the break about the shooting near the University of California, Santa Barbara on Friday night, and how the shooter had harbored a lot of hatred against women, sparked this Yes All Women hashtag to talk about how women are treated in society. And you can share your thoughts with us if you tweet us at BP Show and call us at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. We actually have already got a caller on the line who would like to share his thoughts. Carl from Chicago, Illinois. How are you, Carl?
Me caller, me good.
Good. We love calls from actual cavemen.
So tell us what you're thinking about this.
This guy strikes me as being very similar to Bundy, the serial killer.
Ted Bundy. Who
was his killing spree was triggered by the rejection of a wealthy gal. And he was so narcissistic. He had such a high opinion of himself that he couldn't accept it. He just absolutely, totally rejected women treating him the way that they did, and he launched his killing spree based on that opinion of himself. And he verified the fact that he was so attractive to women, and they should treat him better. The way that he consistently lured them in so easily and killed them. So he was confirming to himself that this initial girl that rejected him was wrong, and his killing spree was totally justified to punish the rest of women.
No, absolutely. You know, that's just, I think a lot of this, as we said, is just a sense of rejection. But, you know, as you're raised, mostly obviously within families, you are encouraged, as well as in school, to accept that rejection and to handle it in an appropriate manner.
There was an interesting moment a couple months ago, and stick with me, when we were talking about the Trayvon Martin case. Mm-hmm. We had Jamal Simmons, our friend, a Democratic strategist, in, and he said something that was really eye-opening for me. Is he said every single black man has a moment in their life where someone makes very clear to them that they are in some sort of danger, be it, you know, like having insults hurled at them, or like gently saying you're not welcome here. And what I realized over the weekend, that was a very eye-opening moment for me, is that every woman in her life has some sort of a moment where she feels threatened by a man, either, you know, intimidation or harassment, or even stepping it up to some sort of physical abuse or physical violence. And it's just something that men don't have to live with.
They really don't. You know, I mean, real quickly, when I was in college, I had a friend of mine who wanted more than friendship, and I had always made it clear that I was not looking for anything more than friendship. And at some point, he just couldn't handle the fact that I didn't reciprocate his feelings, and his behavior became very threatening. He would relentlessly text and text me, and when he would see me places, as soon as I got home, I would have these messages waiting for me in my dorm, like, you know, just online, threatening me and basically hurling abuses at me for not feeling the same way. I had to go file a complaint, but the idea was it was my fault. It was, you know, you shouldn't have been friendly to him in the first place.
Right.
I have every right to be friendly to someone. I apparently showed him I was interested by saying that I'm not interested in more than friendship. I mean, it's up to him to process that and to not lash out.
And it's a story that, like, every woman in my life that I know has a story like that, and it's just sadly a reality.
It's a reality, and you know,
this is a real wake-up call when a guy takes the next step to kill people.
I hope that this is a wake-up call. You know, we're going to definitely be chatting about it with our friends, but I really hope this draws a lot more attention to this. And again, please share your stories with us. You can tweet us at BP Show and give us a call at 866-557-7377. We're going to take a quick break, but we will be back with you shortly.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I talk to undergraduates and graduate students who are desperate to go out and start something and build something and be the one to come up with that silver bullet solution. And I just want to say slow down.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
Most of the people you're talking to who want to come into the social change space, are they prepared?
If you're early in your career, there's a couple of really important things to do. The first one is just to shut the hell up and don't talk for about 5 years and work really, really hard. The only way you're going to be given more difficult things to do is by solving the ones you're already given. And if you're somebody who's always complaining or wants to be promoted above where they really are, you can't learn enough to start to take on a greater pool of responsibilities.
Advice you would give a person coming out of college is go work for other people, make your mistakes on their dime.
That sounds like me, absolutely.
It does sound like you.
And you know who that came from is one of my board members, Eric Buttline. Eric had seen me start a few companies as a young kid. I mean, I started my first real company when I was 16. And Eric said, "Chid, do me a favor. I know you have this thing in your head that you think you're this great entrepreneur, but like go work for somebody for a little while and just learn how things are supposed to be done. And when you're done with that, let's have another conversation about, you know, your next venture."
And I think another thing to remember, and this is something that I've really only learned in the past couple of years, is that although the problems are urgent and so important for us to address, I need to have more patience. I'm not going to solve those problems on my own. You're not going to solve those problems on your own. I'm an apprentice in all of this. You know, I'm an apprentice in life. I'm an apprentice in problem solving. I'm not going to change the world until I'm at least 65. That's my goal at this point.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org. to let us know your thoughts.
Tune into the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to the Bill Press Show. I'm Sabrina Siddiqui, politics reporter at the Huffington Post, filling in for Bill today. Welcome back to the show. We are actually joined now by my friend and colleague, Arthur Delaney, also of the Huffington Post. Hello, Arthur.
Hello, Sabrina.
This is an interesting new
We're taking this show over.
This is a HuffPost takeover, by the way.
Feeling a little outnumbered.
We constitute a majority of the board.
How we planned it. It's soon.
Sorry, Peter.
It's all right.
This show is officially ours, by the way. When Bill comes back, there won't be a Bill Press Show.
It'll be a battle to see who takes over the chair. Sure.
It will be a battle. Arthur, did you have a good weekend?
It was. I think every weekend should be 3 days long. I don't understand why it isn't a movement. Why there aren't politicians campaigning on the 3-day weekend.
I thought it was a movement.
It was a movement 100 years ago, and I tried to bring it back last Labor Day and failed.
Well, I think I could get behind the 3-day week.
Well, seriously, if you worked Monday through Thursday or Tuesday through Friday, and you just did 10 hours a day instead of 8,
which most of us do,
anyway. But if that was the standard, how many people would go for that? I think a majority.
Everybody.
Huffington Post did a poll in which we asked people, would you work 20% less for 20% less pay? And I think 17% of Americans said that they would. So that's the rate of overemployment. Not only would you be happier, but it would reduce unemployment.
Yeah.
By everybody working fewer hours. And that was an economic argument that labor unions made for 100 years, but then just sort of stopped after we got the New Deal. And in World War II, health care was linked to employment. Unfortunately, we've been working 40 hours a week ever since then.
How great do you feel today, though? Like, I feel great.
I
feel okay about
pretty
this week.
decent given how early I woke up, which I'm not used to. I don't want to offend all the people here who do this every day.
It's all right. It's okay.
Arthur, I think, wakes up very early, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You got to get up early to listen to the Bill Press show.
You do. Right. You know, one thing that we had wanted to talk about was the scandal at the Department of Veterans Affairs. I don't like to use the word scandal. Let's say controversy. Because what's happening is that the VA is under investigation following a report that as many as 40 veterans died while waiting for care at a hospital in Phoenix, a VA hospital, where staff has been accused of cooking the books to mask really long wait times. And now I think there are more than 26 VA hospitals across the country that are being investigated. Arthur, you know, this is obviously a major headache for the administration, and this is something that's coming as there's a Benghazi committee.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of politicking over the IRS. They still are being obviously slammed for the NSA surveillance. It's hard to tell sometimes what's a faux scandal and a real scandal. How bad is this?
I think scandal is a fair word for this. If it's true that a number of veterans died because they were denied prompt medical attention. And so the Inspector General of the VA is looking into it. But he said that in 17 of the 40 cases in Phoenix that have been cited by CNN, you couldn't say that the people who died because they were waiting.
Mm-hmm.
They died while they were waiting, which I think is often the case, if you have ongoing medical issues like many veterans do. So this is potentially, scandal, I think, potentially a very fair word for this.
I think that's an important point. The distinction is very significant, just because oftentimes there are these blockbuster reports, and CNN has certainly advertised this as 40 veterans died, and this is why. And obviously, you cannot directly put their deaths on the wait times per se.
Right.
That's but certainly there seems to have been a concerted effort to kind of rig the system.
It's scandalous if veterans don't get the best medical attention, the best service. Our colleague David Wood, who's interviewed a lot of people in the VA system and a lot of veterans, says, they come home from having sacrificed so much, working in other countries, combat, and people often don't understand the work that they have done. But the VA is this one place where they get, the best possible attention, and they really cherish that. And it's terrible when you get stuck on a waiting list.
Absolutely. And, one of the questions that's coming out of this is whether or not the Secretary of the Veterans Affairs Department, Eric Shinseki, should have to step down. We have actually a clip of General Martin Dempsey discussing this matter.
Well, it is outrageous if the allegations actually are documented and proven, and I suspect some of them will be. They've got to be held accountable. I think that Rick Shinseki has made it very clear that they will be held accountable, and then
including him.
Of course. I mean, at some point, the chief executive, the chairman, whoever it is, has to take responsibility for the entire organization and its performance.
Now, there are certainly more Republicans who've come out and called for his head, as well as a couple of Democratic candidates running for the Senate who are not in the Senate. Allison Lundergan-Grimes and Michelle Nunn, who want to run away from this administration at a time like this. But does that really solve the problem?
Well, that's an interesting question. Does giving the boot to the top executive of a large bureaucracy, while it's in turmoil, make the turmoil better or worse? And I think that's why you don't have across-the-board Republicans just saying he should resign, because it's not obvious how that would fix the problem, though you do like the idea of accountability and the people who are in charge when things go wrong paying the price by losing their jobs. But how exactly would that make things better for veterans? And I think that's why people like the idea of letting the Inspector General finish its report. Then we'll figure out what we're going to do with Eric Shinseki.
Do you think that's what's holding back Republican leaders? It is interesting that John Boehner and Mitch McConnell have come close to calling for his head, but they aren't willing to explicitly say it, and that's rare for them. They're usually ready to pounce.
Because there's a lot of respect for Eric Shinseki, himself a decorated military veteran. The loudest voices calling for his resignation are coming from outside the American Legion and these other veterans groups, which do not go around calling for people to resign willy-nilly, and that's really serious. They think he should go, but it's an interesting debate, and I think it's easier for people to say, well, let's see what the Inspector General has to say before we go calling for his head.
Yeah, and I think that report is going to be very important, because it's just not clear, first of all, whether a number of hospitals were also cooking the books. It's not clear who knew about it in terms of top-level officials. They have let go some senior officials as an initial step. I mean, you guys should let us know what you think. Do you think that Aaron Shinseki should resign over this scandal, as we have now called it, at the Veteran Affairs Department? You can tweet us at BP Show to let us know. You can also give us a call if you want, if you have any thoughts just in general on the controversy at the VA. We are at 866-557-7377. So we love to hear from you there. And we're going to actually be talking to Arthur a little bit more after the break. I do want to bring up some of our other favorite topics here, unemployment benefits being one of them, maybe some Obamacare. And you can follow Arthur Delaney at Arthur Delaney HP. We'll be right back here at the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
Yeah, I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to The Bill Press Show. I'm Sabrina Siddiqui from the Huffington Post, and I am filling in for Bill today. We were just talking with Arthur Delaney, also from the Huffington Post, about whether or not Eric Shinseki, the Veteran Affairs Secretary, should resign, and it looks like you guys have some comments. We've got Beverly from St. David, Illinois on the phone. Hi, Beverly.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Fine. Hi, Arthur. How are you doing?
I'm good, Beverly. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
So what
I'm
do you?
Good. I'm good too, Beverly. Hi.
You were very quiet.
Hi, Lisa. Hi, everybody.
Peter's been quiet. It's not your fault. Beverly, so what do you think?
Well, I think it's kind of ridiculous to get rid of the man in the middle of a supposed scandal. First of all, you don't have all of the information.
Right.
Secondly of all, do not people realize that if we fire Sinderbrand, okay, there's no leader of the VA area, then they have to go through a hearing in the Senate, and with the Republicans as asinine as they are, how long do you think that they would hold off for another new leader?
That's a great point. I think that the difficulty of getting nominees through the Senate is really important to consider. You wouldn't want to have this like a filibuster on a nominee.
Well, but President Obama hasn't had the same trouble filling cabinet positions that he has judgeships, right?
It's more like, I mean, no, even at this point, cabinet nominees like Chuck Hagel and John Brennan, they haven't gotten, there's been a hold, I mean, but it hasn't really been a filibuster each time. I mean, Rand Paul is an infamous talking filibuster, but, it's certainly not easy. They just take their sweet time. We've got another opinion. We've got Jill on the phone from Phoenix, Arizona. Hey, Jill.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Very well. I had to call because my husband's used the VA here in Phoenix for about the last 6 years. And his brother also used the VA in Albuquerque. And both of them have had extremely good treatment.
Oh, wow.
They're very happy with it. And one thing I must say to Arthur, you said something that has really been hitting me recently. Every TV program, every news thing say that 40 people have died. You said it correctly, and that there have been 17 of those cases here in Phoenix, that they have died while waiting, but whether it's due to the same thing, or they had a car accident, or they had heart attack, whatever, something unrelated to what they were there for, that has not been proved, and that's what came out of those first 17. We have to wait until this investigation is complete before anything is done. I agree with the woman who came before.
Thanks, Jill. I think we're pretty much in agreement. It's important to wait till the investigation is over. But Peter, I think you've been getting some.
Yeah, just a quick comment because we're on Twitter at BP Show, and a lot of people are chiming in on this. And one of the things that we've heard as we've talked about this over the past couple of days echoes what Jill said is. A lot of these folks, when they do get the treatment at the VA, it's great treatment. They like it. They're happy with it. It's just the problem is getting there, which is what NC Nomad on Twitter said. My dad got great treatment at a VA hospital. Also, HBK112 on Twitter says the VA problems are regional. Some regions do a good job, others not so well. But the IG should copy the successful regions when looking at what to do.
Interesting from Jill, a vote of confidence from Phoenix in the VA there, which is ground zero for this story.
Phoenix is where this story has broken out of to begin with. And as we talked about, that is, I mean, where CNN reported, of course, on these 40 deaths. And again, I think it's still important to underscore, because it gets lost in the headline, not to blame those deaths directly on wait times. These are people who, of course, have a lot of health problems, and oftentimes, they do unfortunately die waiting for care. The question is, how long were they waiting for that care?
Yeah.
And I think the IG is going to take a close look at that. But Arthur, let's switch gears a little bit, because you actually mentioned while you were advocating for the 4-day work week, the 3-day weekend, unemployment, and it's been just about 5 months now. Since those long-term benefits expired, benefits for the long-term unemployed. Why aren't they coming back?
Well, we are now at a point where it is pretty safe to say that these benefits are not going to come back. And for the past 5 months, really for the past 6 months, it had been a debate. And, it never seemed likely. But then the Senate surprisingly came through and passed legislation with Republican co-sponsors that would reauthorize the long-term unemployment insurance for the 2 million people who've been missing benefits since they expired in December. And the debate has been a lot about those 2 million people, because the legislation would give them back benefits in a lump sum. And that's something that has actually happened several times for the past few years. And I've been in touch with lots of people who are like, well, will the benefits come back? I'm about to get evicted. My lights are being turned off. It would mean a lot for those individuals. And it's clear, the bill that they had passed would have only lasted through this month.
Well, that was my question, is because they were doing it retroactively, it seems that the further you move away, then the less likely the Senate compromise would even work. So, do you think that was part of the strategy in terms of House Republicans? Did they deliberately wait this out to the point that you can't even restore the benefits?
Oh, yeah, because John Boehner, Speaker of the House, has always said, well, this bill is just impractical because it looks backward and it's hard for state labor departments to find these people. And, yeah, the longer you wait, the more difficult it does become. So that worked. I mean, he opposed the policy.
Right.
But now the senators who pushed the bill, Jack Reed of Rhode Island and Dean Heller of Nevada, the two states with the highest unemployment, they are now saying this retroactive approach doesn't look so good anymore. Maybe we'll keep fighting for this, but it will only be to bring the benefits back for people who become long-term unemployed in the future. But even that, you're not going to get a lot of steam behind that, because the unemployment rate keeps going down.
It does.
6.3%. It is now.
Is that because people are dropping out of the workforce?
Well, it's been such a lame recovery that there have been new jobs, though they've tended to be not so great jobs. And then there's this mystery of what is happening to the long-term unemployed. There's about 1 million fewer of them each year. And some percentage are giving up and they're retiring, or they're ceasing to look for work. And some of them are finding jobs, but it's clearly a mix. And it's not a good story when people are leaving the workforce. The participation rate goes down. Do they become reliant on other government programs?
What I'm curious about on this issue, though, is that with unemployment benefits, it's not quite like other forms of government assistance. We know what the conservative ideology is with respect to social welfare programs.
Yeah.
Arthur had a great piece looking at Paul Ryan's whole anti-poverty campaign and how his ideas are straight out of the 19th century. Yeah. And for a very long time, conservatives said we should push people off of what they see as government dependency. They're cutting food stamps. They're not particularly, as we know, favorable toward the Medicaid expansion. And in general, they want people to work for these benefits. But with unemployment, this is not quite the same. This affects Americans all across the country. It affects Republican constituents too. It's not more of like an urban population. That is often what happens with a lot of the other programs. They see this as Democratic voters.
That's a great point. Unemployment is more than many other things that are debated in the safety net. Unemployment insurance is a middle-class benefit. You're only eligible for it if you're laid off because of economic conditions, not because you did something wrong. And you're only eligible for it if you've been working for, typically in most states, at least 5 of the previous quarters. So more than a year of established work history. It's a very middle-class benefit. It doesn't go to poor people. It goes to ones who had solid jobs and work histories.
All right, well, thank you so much, Arthur, for that rundown. We are going to take a break. Keep watching. We'll be right back at The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Bauhaus was one of the most definitive design movements of the modern age, reaching its peak between the 2 world wars. The word Bauhaus, loosely translated from German, means house of construction or school of building. Bauhaus was a new type of art school. Historically, European art academies taught each design subject separately. The Bauhaus offered foundation training in many art and design disciplines. They believed in variety. Understanding mass production was part of the curriculum, and the school sought to develop students who could unify art with craft while embracing new technology. It was also the beginning of the art school as an alternative way of life. Germany at that time was a pretty conservative place. And before the Nazis said "Nein" to the Bauhaus, it was arguably the most celebrated art school in the world. Bauhaus thinkers believed the world needed to be fundamentally rethought. Unnecessary ornamentation was out. Minimalism was in. Good design required simplicity and geometric purity. One of the best known icons of Bauhaus design is the cantilevered chair. Designed by someone named Breuer, it was inspired by the steel tubes of his bicycle, and ultimately led to the first lightweight, mass-produced metal chair. Despite his success, Breuer concluded that eventually chairs would become obsolete, and everyone would soon be sitting on supportive columns of air. Bauhaus was all about innovation and inspiration. Nowadays, Bauhaus influences can be seen everywhere, from road signs and graphic design to big windows and even bigger buildings. In architecture, the international style, as it became known, influenced skylines the world over. Bauhaus was about ideas, reform, exploration and vitality, about making more tidy sense of the rapidly evolving world around us, and giving us more cool stuff for our apartments.
Tune into the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
This is The Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to Bill Press. I'm Sabrina Siddiqui from the Huffington Post, filling in for Bill. Peter, what's going on out there?
Just a quick follow-up on something we were talking about earlier with the Santa Barbara shootings and the misogynist rants of the shooter. On Twitter, #YesAllWomen was trending all week, and it was women sort of sharing their stories about life as a woman and dealing with men. Just some of the highlights from some of the people and some of the tweets. One person wrote, "Because I routinely get sexually harassed online after my investigations air," from a female reporter. Another person, #YesAllWomen, because all girls have to learn that boys will be boys. And probably the best one of all, #YesAllWomen, because this hashtag even exists on Twitter.
It's remarkable.
Really
We'd love to hear from you too. Tweet us at BP Show, and we'll be back after
This
the
is
break.
The Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new. If I could have an extra 5 years to live. You said 5, right? 5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much. I would get more hamsters. I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years. I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime.
I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna. I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed. If I had 5 more extra years to live, I would be the boss of all the chipmunks. Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas. I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful?
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, clean
cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you know, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to The Bill Press Show. I'm Sabrina Siddiqui with the Huffington Post, a politics reporter. They're filling in for Bill Press this morning. Hopefully you've been tuning in to us on Free Speech TV and TawkrTV. You can watch us at youtube.com/TawkrTV and tweet us at BP Show. Don't forget to call 866-55-PRESS. 866-557-7377. I'm here with Peter Ogburn, our executive producer.
Hi, Sabrina.
Hi.
Thank you for coming back in.
Thanks for having me back in. I've got Elisa Murphy running the board.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Alicia Cruz is screening the calls today. She's the one to call on that number. And we've got Cyprian Bolding, our video operator. We are now joined by my friend Igor Volsky, who is the managing editor at Think Progress.
Good
Hello.
morning.
Good morning.
Hello. How are you?
Long time no see.
It's been too long.
It's been very long.
2 days.
For those of you who don't know, Igor and I are on a media tour.
Yes.
We were in New York together doing some TV on Saturday.
Sitting right next to each other, actually.
We were placed next to each other.
We've been each other the whole
in New
time.
York.
Yeah.
And now you're here.
We had a romantic walk in the rain. We
It
actually
was
got
glorious.
lost. It was
Yeah.
pouring.
We
and
went the wrong direction.
We went like 2 avenues the wrong way. Avenues are the
So
worst.
wait, you showed up to do TV after walking through the rain?
No, that was after.
This is post-TV.
Yeah, please.
Keep up
come on.
with the
We had cars
program.
to get to the TV.
Yeah.
Come on.
Who do you think we
walked
are?
there? Jesus.
But, we just, we...
It was very romantic. I held the umbrella, and she was fixing her shoe, and it was very,
Yeah, my shoe, my heel kept coming off. Igor's also taller, so it made sense to hold the umbrella, because I was otherwise, not able to protect
you're very
us.
tall. You're what? You're like 3 or 4 feet tall.
Yeah.
So it's not
I am 3 feet tall. I am 5'3" on a good day.
Is that right?
Yes. It's 5'2.5", and I round up to 5'3".
I mean, in those heels, you couldn't tell. It was, pretty much the
heels,
same. Yeah.
5'3" until the heel fell off.
That's right.
And then she's back down to 5'2".
Right. Yeah, I was brought down a peg, but Igor, we've been talking about a lot of things here. We wanted to talk a little bit about this issue of misogyny and the shooter near UCSB. If you had any, but first, I think we've got yet another edition of Full Court Press.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. When I used to go on road trips, when we used to drive through tunnels, the rule between my sister and I was hold your breath until you get through the whole tunnel.
Yeah.
You've heard of this,
Yeah,
right?
yes, I've done it. Yeah.
Here's a really bad idea. Don't do that if you're driving. That is what a 19-year-old man did in Manning, Oregon. He held his breath while he was driving through a tunnel in Oregon, and he passed out.
No way.
Because he held his breath for too long. He fainted, and he caused a crash. He went across the center line and crashed with oncoming traffic. No one died. Everyone's okay. Just minor injuries. He did have to go to the hospital and just make sure everything was okay.
Yeah, tip, guys.
Pro tip. If you're driving, don't hold your breath until you pass out. Bad idea.
You know that now.
Really bad idea. Over the weekend, Pope Francis spoke to the victims of sexual abuse by the Catholic Church. He said that he apologized for the problems that had happened with the Catholic Church, and he unveiled plans to meet with the victims personally in early June. Details are still sort of coming out on that story, but he did sort of say that he wants to have that happen, and it's going to happen here very soon.
Interesting. This new pope, man.
I
never know what he's up to.
I mean, he seriously at this point can't say anything that would surprise me.
Well, so you think.
Yeah, you never know.
And the Los Angeles Dodgers had one heck of a pitching weekend. Over the weekend, Josh Beckett, their pitcher, threw a no-hitter against the Phillies. So yesterday, when Hyunjin Ryu took the mound, come on, that's my best attempt.
Pretty good.
I can't say I know how to.
Thank you. He took the mound and went 8 innings with a perfect game. He gave up that perfect game in the 8th inning, a double to Todd Frazier. That means that the Dodgers went 56 consecutive batters without a hit over the weekend. It would have been the first team to ever throw back-to-back no-hitters, but that was, again, broken up yesterday in the 8th inning.
I wish I knew more about baseball.
I don't know anything you just said.
You got it.
Our resident sport update from Peter.
Thanks, everyone.
Well, on that note, look, Igor, we've been talking today. We've been trying to get some feedback on the Yes All Women hashtag that emerged this weekend following the mass shooting near the University of California at Santa Barbara. Of course, Elliot Rogers, as we know, first stabbed his 3 roommates to death, and then he went on a shooting rampage, targeting, however, women. And you have a piece behind the sexist ideology that preoccupied a mass murderer. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's really fascinating, the community he was part of. There is apparently this whole backlash against these people called pickup artists, or the seduction community, books like The Game, and this belief that if you kind of charm women and if you act the right way, you can pretty much sleep with any woman you want. And there are independent coaches who go around coaching other men, helping them score women, basically. And what the anti-PUA community are men who tried a lot of these techniques, worked with some of these men, and failed. And so they believe that the PUA community is a scam, that it's just shaking men down, and there are all these message boards and websites devoted to taking them down. Now, on one hand, that sounds like a good development, right? Somebody trying to unravel a pyramid scheme. But you go through these message boards, as we did, and you find really the most sexist, homophobic, vile stuff. So, for instance, one of the things the men would say is they would kind of look around them and say, all these gorgeous girls throwing themselves on all these men, I don't understand it, why can't they sleep with me? Or calling women, promiscuous and all these other things in far cruder language that many of us are comfortable with. And so so he was part of this community, posted on a lot of these boards. They also, the men rate themselves. They all want to be alphas rather than betas. They upload pictures and try to critique each other. How do you do your hair so you're more attractive to women? Do you maybe need a chin implant? They think chin lines are very important to attract a woman. And so all of these very peculiar things. And after the shooting, you had some of these men try to kind of reject this guy and say, well, he was a total beta and he had no game and he totally had a gay face, they call it. Apparently the midsection of his face they proclaimed as gay, and so of course no woman would like him. So just a really fascinating backstory here.
Well, of course, no accountability whatsoever for the role that even if indirectly, websites like that with pure vitriol and hate may have played in encouraging this young man, just kind of trying to put him as sort of brand him as an outlier and putting him down on top of it.
And the pickup artist websites are trying to cash in on this because they're saying, this is why you need game. This is why you need to teach young men how to have game.
Or how to respect women. I don't know. Is that not...
But it's this entitlement to women's bodies that's really remarkable and is really kind of the theme on all of these sites is that men are entitled to have sex with women.
The thing that, the idea that after what happened, that these so-called pickup artists, that their takeaway would be, this is why you should have game, it just disgusts me personally.
This is why you need us. This is why you need to pay us to show you how to do it right.
The whole thing is just so disturbing because, there's clearly this attitude among this guy, or that this guy had, like you said, that he's entitled to be with women, like it or not. That this is how it should be. But I do think that, and I keep coming back to this, yes, all women hashtag on Twitter, but I do think that is a very, very important thing to read, no matter how enlightened you think you are on women's issues.
Especially if you're a man.
That's what I was going to say, especially if you're a man. I mean, look, I personally, right, like I have 2 sons. I am every day I go, thank God I don't have a daughter because of the way that women are treated. But but at the same time, reading that made me think, holy cow, I got to step up my game and making sure that my sons,
your sons are aware,
know how to treat women as they get older, because it's ugly out there.
And it is sad that a lot of people do have that thought. Thank God I don't have a daughter. To even have to think that, I think underscores, and I'm not saying it's something that's been expressed by a lot of people, just because it continues to be a scary world for women. I mean, Igor, I want to talk a little bit about the Yes All Women hashtag, just because we're all familiar with hashtag activism. I mean, there's been an outpouring of tweets on this topic, but there's often this conversation around when are we going to actually take it seriously. Do you think the attention will sustain itself?
I mean, I hope so, certainly. The Yes All Women was born out of the hashtag Not All Men, which was kind of man's response to feminist critique saying, well, yeah, you say men, but not all men are like this, so it's kind of okay in effect, kind of sweeping it and dismissing it and saying this only applies to some people. This isn't a larger societal problem. And the response, the Yes All Women response, has really been incredibly inspiring, I think, to take a tragedy and to use it as an opportunity, I think, to have a conversation about what we can do as a society to make sure men don't think this way, what could have been done to prevent it, to really identify the problems in the culture. Why do men think like this? Why is there an entire community, both the PUA community and the anti-PUA community, who think and operate in this way?
The fact that there's just an entire community within of itself, I really don't think a lot of people know about that. In fact, I'd encourage you to check out Igor's piece on Think Progress, because it kind of talks about the existence of some of these websites. And I do want to talk a little bit after the break about, when you're a member of law enforcement, how seriously do you take some of the rhetoric and that you see online, some of these threats that are prevalent throughout the pickup artists.
Yeah. I think that did a disservice to the whole case of this man, because I think that law enforcement officers who saw that type of speech and aggression towards women and aggression towards having sex with women as not something that far out of the ordinary.
Pretty standard stuff. Tweet us your thoughts at BP Show. We're going to take a break and we'll be back soon.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You make it sound very easy to take these 90-degree turns in your career. You went from engineering to law. But there's an awful lot of people at that age who feel they're on a track, they've invested time in learning a career, and they need to see it through to the end, or maybe their parents are pushing them to stay in one route. What is your advice for a young person?
Stay away from your parents.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
My mom is a pretty spectacular human being. We essentially came to the United States as refugees. And that is when I really got to understand who my mom was as a person. Being a refugee in a foreign country, you would think that it would affect you so much. It was like my mom, nothing changed for my mom. What was really at her core and her center was always being with her kids and getting to spend time with them and making sure that they were okay and making sure that they could still go out and play soccer. I knew that if my goal was to go to Liberia and to work on economic justice so that, kids could go to school and have access to a doctor if they have malaria, that if I bet on their moms, we win.
I think I just come from a lineage of kick-ass women is all I can say. My grandmother came to this country from Mexico as a single mom with 5 children. And I, have an amazing mother who had 3 children, was going to school, working full-time. I mean, almost my story. But she did that and got her bachelor's degree at 40. And so I had a great role model. When I came home and told my mom I was pregnant, her response to me wasn't, your life is over. Her response to me is, well, I want a plan. You need to, let me know what you're going to do about this because you're now responsible for somebody else.
I was the first one in my family to go to college, and my parents were very proud of it. They both had to work. My mom in a factory and my dad in the supermarket, and I was their success story. However, on graduation day, they said, are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be an engineer? You're going to be a businessman? What are you going to, a lawyer? I said, I'm going to join the Peace Corps. And they said, what? My parents were very much opposed to this, and it was very difficult.
How much pressure did they put on you?
Tremendous pressure. Up until we were leaving from O'Hare Airport for me to go to Peru, my mother questioning me, like, where is Peru? You've never been out of the country. What do you know? Do they have doctors? Do they speak English there? What are you going to eat? You like my cooking? I said, Mom, I'm going to be a pioneer. Why do you always have to be the pioneer? Let them do it. Let them come back, and then you go. I said, no, I want to be the first to go.
I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, so there was a lot of gang activity. And one of my friends actually was murdered on a basketball court when a 15-year-old child shot him in the back of the head. And I was just hopeless. And my mom actually, she brought me to a place of empathy for the kids who were involved in actually murdering him. Because my mom sort of said, look, where do you think those kids are coming from? And then she said, so if you're angry about it, do something. Actually change the way this world works.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to The Bill Press Show. I'm Sabrina Siddiqui, politics reporter at the Huffington Post, and I am filling in for Bill today. We were talking to Igor Volsky of Think Progress. You can follow him on Twitter at Igor Volsky, Volsky, for those who are wondering.
Please do, yes.
Yes, why not? Peter's here too.
Hi there.
I believe he's at Peter Ogburn.
Yes, but I wouldn't suggest you. I
unfollow.
Follow
I would
at
do
your
the
own
opposite. I wouldn't follow
risk.
me.
Yeah, I
wouldn't follow me.
Wouldn't. We were talking before the break about the tragic shooting near the University of California, Santa Barbara, and we actually have a clip. One of the victims' dads spoke out, and obviously it's a very difficult time, worst kind of situation you could think of a parent being in. And here's what he had to say about the shooting and guns.
We don't want to see handguns so easy to get that a kid with documented mental illness can walk into a store and pick 2 or 3 of them up.
Now, Igor, we've had this conversation so many times.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, we didn't talk a lot about the gun control part of it because we almost already know. We do know what's going to happen, which is nothing.
Right.
Here he's talking about mental health, though, and one thing they do repeatedly keep on saying in Congress is, well, we have to address mental health. We have to address mental health. California has some of the strictest gun laws in the country, but clearly still not enough. Is there some, with respect to mental health, are there not enough protections?
Well, certainly there's some appetite in Congress now to do something. Senator Blumenthal was on Face the Nation on Sunday and said maybe we should reopen this conversation. Senator Thune from South Dakota appeared to agree with that assessment, so we'll see what happens. But the conversation is a little harder to have in California because a lot of the laws that you want to pass on the federal level that Democrats have advocated are already in place in California. Mm-hmm. You have the assault weapons ban in California. You have the limit on the size of ammunition that you can have. And what he did is he had weapons that were legal, not assault weapons. He had rounds, smaller amounts of ammunition that was legal, and he was still able to carry this out. And when you turn the question to mental health, even there the California laws are far more strict. You can deny guns to in California if somebody is just deemed a threat or makes a threat against an individual. The federal standard is far lower. You have to be involuntarily committed in order for you to lose those rights.
You know, you mentioned Senator Blumenthal. We do have some audio of what he had to say. Let's take a listen.
If we fail to act, fail to do something, we must deem ourselves part of the problem.
Now, you know, Richard Blumenthal is from Connecticut, where the horrific shooting happened at Sandy Hook Elementary School December 2012 in Newtown, of course, which left 20 children dead and then 6 educators in addition to the shooter. And there, too, we had a mental health issue. However, I don't want to bucket them together because we did talk about this whole misogyny aspect of this one. This was a plan that this young man had hatched out over 3 years, yeah. Elliot Rogers, and he was almost caught. That's where I kind of do want to bring in this question of, you know, as much as hindsight is 20/20, what law enforcement officials could have done. You know, Igor, can you fill us in a little bit on kind of the past and you know, the visits that were paid to this young man by law enforcement officials?
Well, there was some concern about his mental state. His parents had asked law enforcement to check in on him. They did, I believe, several months ago before the shooting took place. 7 officers showed up at his college dorm. He opened the door and seemed very coherent and explained to them there was just some social misunderstanding, that he was having some problems with his peers, but that he's going to leave school at the end of the semester and go live at home and deal with whatever problems he's having. And they kind of looked at him and said, well, okay. And he went back after that incident and wrote in his manifesto, this 140-page document, if they had only searched my room, they would have found the stockpiles of weapons and it would have all been over.
You know, that's one of the most chilling parts of this. I think, I mean, again, you know, could they have maybe done some things differently? Maybe looking back, they could. It's really hard to, though, search someone's room without due cause. That's something we were talking about. And really, someone has to be shown to be a threat to him or herself in order to commit them under an involuntary hold, which, as you said, this guy seemed very coherent.
He did. He fooled 7 police officers. So certainly a very manipulative guy who really slipped through some of the toughest gun laws in the nation.
You know, I think that there might be appetite, like you said, to resurrect at least a mental health bill. I mean, that's something that House Republicans are actually even saying that they would be willing to move on. Now, the question would be, as with many cases, whether this would happen before or after the election. I mean, certainly I don't think that they would act on it anytime soon. But at the same time, there's an impetus right now. And if it fades, then they won't act on it ever.
I mean, I'm certainly guilty of being cynical about any gun laws getting done. I mean, look, if nothing happened after Sandy Hook, nothing major happened after Sandy Hook, it's not going to happen now.
It's hard to see, certainly, an avenue.
It's just not going to happen. We have moved on. Legislatively, we have moved on. It's not going to happen.
I mean, I do think a lot of people have accepted that fact. Harry Reid said he'll bring it up. He's going to have to do it, though, after the midterms because there's no way his Democrats will vote before. Yeah. Igor Volsky from Think Progress, thank you so much for joining us. He's the managing editor, and you can follow him at Igor Volsky. Check them out online at thinkprogress.org. We're over here at the Bill Press Show, and we will be back after this break.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I talk to undergraduates and graduate students who are desperate to go out and start something and build something and be the one to come up with that silver bullet solution. And I just want to say, slow down.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
Most of the people you're talking to who want to come into the social change space, are they prepared?
If you're early in your career, there's a couple of really important things to do. The first one is just to shut the hell up and don't talk for about 5 years and work really, really hard. The only way you're going to be given more difficult things to do is by solving the ones you're already given. And if you're somebody who's always complaining or wants to be promoted above where they really are, you can't learn enough to start to take on a greater pool of responsibilities.
Advice you would give a person coming out of college is go work for other people, make your mistakes on their dime.
That sounds like me, absolutely.
It does sound like you.
And you know who that came from is one of my board members, Eric Buttline. Eric had seen me start a few companies as a young kid. I mean, I started my first real company when I was 16. And Eric said, "Chid, do me a favor. I know you have this thing in your head that you think you're this great entrepreneur, but like, go work for somebody for a little while and just learn how things are supposed to be done. And when you're done with that, let's have another conversation about, you know, your next venture."
And I think another thing to remember, and this is something that I've really only learned in the past couple of years, is that although the problems are urgent and so important for us to address, I need to have more patience. I'm not going to solve those problems on my own. You're not going to solve those problems on your own. I'm an apprentice in all of this. You know, I'm an apprentice in life. I'm an apprentice in problem solving. I'm not going to change the world until I'm at least 65. That's my goal at this point.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org to let us know your thoughts.
Tune into the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to The Bill Press Show. I'm Sabrina Siddiqui with the Huffington Post, the politics reporter there, filling in for Bill today on this Tuesday morning. And I am joined by Rebecca Sinderbrand, the White House editor, deputy White House editor at Politico. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us. We're going to get into the president's surprise visit to Afghanistan. I just want to remind you guys, if you want to give us a call at 866-55-PRESS, we're happy to hear from you. That's 866-557-7377, or tweet us at BP Show for any thoughts you have on what we discussed today. But Rebecca, President, on Memorial Day weekend, showed up in Afghanistan. A surprise trip. It also comes amid this controversy at the Department of the Veterans Affairs. Can you tell us a little bit about what the goal of that trip was?
Well, the president, of course, used the trip again to highlight the fact he says troops are going to be out of Afghanistan by year's end. This is kicking off actually a 2-week foreign policy swing for the president. We're going to hear a lot from him about what's going on in the rest of the world over the next 2 weeks.
No, he has a big speech coming up, in fact, on Wednesday, tomorrow. He's delivering the commencement address at West Point. And my understanding is that he may make news on Afghanistan. One of the questions is residual troop levels.
That's right.
I think the White House has been telling reporters they could fall below 10,000 after 2014. What have we been hearing about the plan and what is standing in the way of an agreement?
Well, the big thing about this speech is, they've been pointing to it for weeks now. And the key has been, for the past year, we've seen the president kind of, it seems as though, careering from foreign policy crisis to foreign policy crisis. And this is the moment where we're finally going to hear the unified Obama foreign policy doctrine laid out. And so, there have been these kind of continuing questions, of course, over troop levels. And, one of the things that a lot of people noted over this trip was he didn't actually meet with Karzai.
Mm-hmm.
Karzai did not come to Bagram to meet with him. They did speak by phone, but, that seemed very significant. There's been this tension over the past year or so between the two. It's been growing. The White House not particularly pleased with Karzai at this moment.
The White House, press secretary Jay Carney, it was in general the team, I think, of those traveling with the president, had told reporters that he didn't meet with Karzai, not deliberately, but Karzai doesn't typically come to Bagram when the president is there, so they didn't think he would want to come this time.
Sure.
Is that an excuse?
Yeah.
It just sounds a little odd. We didn't invite him because he doesn't like to come to our parties anyway. I mean, what is that? I don't know what that really means.
But it's a thing you do.
Yeah.
It's a thing. I mean, it sends a message. They know what kind of message it sends. And, the fact is that Karzai is actually getting plaudits in Afghanistan for not meeting with the president. And so it plays domestically a certain way there for him, too.
Now, here's actually the president, of course, as you mentioned, was talking about the end of the war in Afghanistan. Let's take a listen to what he said.
We're in a pivotal moment. Our troops are coming home. By the end of this year, our war in Afghanistan will finally come to an end.
Now, absent a bilateral agreement with Karzai, of course, we're not entirely sure what the plan will look like to actually end the war and bring it to a close. There's been a lot of friction. So, what does the next, the rest of this year look like for the administration with respect to Afghanistan?
Well, one of the things that the administration has been dangling over Karzai's head for some time now, kind of, a tough love, is talking about the zero option, the possibility that there would be no U.S. troops of any kind of in Afghanistan after year's end. Kind of trying to force him to come to an agreement and kind of make that happen. The question remains exactly what the clock is ticking. There's only a couple of months left. So, we may hear more of that tough love.
I would not be surprised if we hear more tough love. We might hear it on Wednesday for all we know in this speech. But one other thing that happened as the president was in Afghanistan is truly bizarre. Now, the White House accidentally outed a CIA chief officer, a top CIA official stationed in Afghanistan. What happened? Can you tell us, break down for us what exactly happened and how it happened?
We have to point out for context here, this is actually becoming something of an unfortunate trend, not just under this White House. In neighboring Pakistan, this has happened at least 3 times in recent years where the CIA station chief has been outed accidentally or deliberately for one reason or another. But reporters on the White House press list, so we're talking thousands of reporters here who get White House pool reports, got this kind of perfunctory list of officials who were meeting with the president. And on that list was a name next to the title, Chief of Station, which, of course, generally indicates that someone is at the head of CIA operations in that country. Minutes later, a corrected pool report, please use this version. But, of course, by that time, the damage had been done.
Oh, my. And you said this has happened before. It's happened in Pakistan. There's a precedent. So what happens now? What do they do?
Well, clearly they're not terribly anxious to talk about this, and for security reasons, we're probably not going to get all of the details, but it's safe to say, there'll be a continuing question over whether this person remains in the country or not.
It'd be
I
tough,
don't think,
right? I mean, it would be tough.
It'd be a
Good
little
news, good news,
tough.
bad news. We may have leaked your name out. That's the bad news. Good news is you get to see another part of the country.
Right, that's right.
I wonder what happens if you're the person at the White House who's responsible for outing.
Oh, that is the question.
A CIA chief.
Right.
That's the thing is, people look at these poll reports, an official on background provides the list. So it doesn't, there's a lot of intermediaries before these poll reports go out.
They'll be working for the press office in Siberia.
That's right. That's
where they end up.
Lovely this time of year.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Really, really nice.
On this foreign policy speech, I did want to ask what we're going to hear from the president with respect to other crises you mentioned. He's been gravitating from crisis to crisis, and it's almost like people have forgotten about Ukraine. They've forgotten about Syria. Do you think we're going to, and he's been criticized heavily by some, but not just by Republicans. I mean, there have been critics of his foreign policy approach to both crises. Do you think we're going to hear some sort of rebuke from the president, or will he just walk us through any progress that's been made in both of those regions?
Well, he's going to start out with a couple of big themes and kind of work from there. I mean, you have to remember, we're heading into a week where the president's about to head to Europe. Whether he wanted to or not, for the Normandy celebration, Vladimir Putin is going to be there. He's heading to Poland, obviously, also. So, Ukraine is going to come up. And this is going to be at least the third trip in recent months where, whether the president wants to or not, he would have to make Ukraine a centerpiece of this trip, a centerpiece of what he talks about and the themes that he's embracing. And so, we're going to hear a lot more from him about this.
Do we know if he plans to meet with Putin while he's in Europe? I mean, this is a question that's on a lot of people's minds.
There are no plans at this moment. The question is whether there are going to be any kind of, accidental bump-ins, whether it's something that's impossible to avoid. At this point, the White House has made it pretty clear there's no plans for a bilateral meeting with Putin when they're in Normandy.
Yeah, I mean, that really...
A touch uncomfortable.
A touch uncomfortable. I don't know, Peter. Vladimir Putin and Obama.
Yeah, it would be awkward.
I would touch on the awkward side.
I would
just a little bit.
Love to be a fly on the wall, though.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
The entertainment factor will be high.
Yeah, the entertainment factor will be very high. I don't know if you guys are thinking anything about the president's big foreign policy push, but there's been so much mixed reaction, I think, to his handling of foreign policy. I think pre-2012 it was very much a pristine record. Post-election, people have, of course, he's had to deal with crisis after crisis. So we'd love to hear from you if you tweet us at BP Show.
That's right. And with regards to the Putin thing, let's not forget that tomorrow night is Edward Snowden's big interview with Brian Williams.
Oh, right. That is
So
right.
that could
They had
be-
that photos. Plenty to talk about if they happen to bump into each other. I mean,
exactly.
The interesting thing to keep in mind, and I know a lot of people have noted this before, but the fact is, even as the approval ratings for Obama's handling of foreign policy go down, but the public still agrees with him on the actual outcome in these situations. So it's this kind of, we've seen this before, he's kind of in a no-win situation.
Well, and that's a point I might bring up after the break, because, one of the things that this was focused on a lot more is deterrence, as opposed to kind of reactionary policy moves that entail the U.S. getting involved a lot more than it would like to from a military perspective. But, we're here with Rebecca Sinderbrand at Politico, and we will be back after this break.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to the Bill Press Show. I'm Sabrina Siddiqui from the Huffington Post, filling in for Bill, who maybe couldn't get enough of the long weekend. But he seems to have skipped town. Peter, you know where he
All I know is that he...
Disclosed location?
Yeah, he posted a picture on Twitter of his Memorial Day barbecue, and it was just this tub of gin. And we couldn't get a hold of him this morning, so thank you for coming in last minute.
You know,
We're not sure where he is exactly.
It's part of my master plan to take control of the show. Rebecca Sinderbrand, Deputy White House Editor at Politico, is here with us, too. You can follow her on Twitter at Sinderbrand, and, of course, catch their work online at Politico.com. Rebecca and I were talking about the president's stop in Afghanistan and this big foreign policy push he's going to make. Also on Memorial Day, he, of course, as he always does, talked about veterans and their care. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
As we've been reminded in recent days, we must do more to keep faith with our veterans and their families and ensure they get the care and benefits and opportunities that they've earned and that they deserve.
Now, Rebecca, this is not different, of course, from anything that this president or any president says every Memorial Day or any Veterans Day. It's a point they've made repeatedly, but the timing here is sensitive because the VA is being investigated for long wait times at more than 26 hospitals now, but in Phoenix in particular, you know, they've accused staff of cooking the books, rigging the system to mask the long wait times, and 40 veterans died waiting for care at the Phoenix VA hospital. Of course, not directly attributed by any means just to the wait times and this concept of rigging the system. But there is there's a report that will be out for this White House. How do you think they approached, first of all, this particular Memorial Day? I mean, sure, they had to factor in this controversy into the speech writing and how the president would address this.
And the president's weekly address, where there was also a reference to the care for veterans, too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. This was the elephant at the barbecue for this Memorial Day weekend. Yeah. It's something that had to be addressed, and he addressed it very obliquely and very carefully in these different references. It's a continuing challenge for this White House. This is not a story that's going to go away. It plays into a number of different narratives about this president. It's something that has the capacity to gain kind of a mainstream currency in a way that a lot of these other scandals or controversies have not. And it's a legitimate set of legitimate questions have been raised. And so, this is not something the White House can brush away as a political argument the way they have others.
No, we were talking with Arthur Delaney, my colleague at the Huffington Post earlier, about Eric Shinseki. We had a couple calls too about whether or not he should be forced to resign or that he should really, in effect, be fired. 2 callers said no. That in the heat of a controversy, when there's an investigation underway, axing the chief for that department is not the right way to go. What do you think, though, internally the White House is thinking about Shinseki?
Well, this is a pattern we've seen before. No president wants to be seen as pushing out an official under fire. That, again, particularly in a situation where you're being criticized for your kind of lack of management decisiveness, looking like you're being pushed around by different forces is not exactly the method that you want to use to regain that image. So, the president's bought himself some time. We've seen, we're going to have this a couple of weeks. We're going to have this new, the results of the different investigations coming in, and then we may see some moves after that. We'll see what comes after.
Yeah, seems to be sort of his trend.
It is.
Sebelius kind of, let's wait till the damages have subsided a little bit and then address the issue. You guys
claim some level of victory.
Yeah. You guys have been calling us at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377 about this, and we do have a caller on the line. Rachel from Tucson, Arizona. Hello.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Hi. First of all, I am a veteran of Desert Storm, and I want to remind everybody that we've been in the war with Daddy Bush, is what I call him. He did the first one. Junior did Iraq and Afghanistan, and they didn't really ramp up the VA for all the disabilities that were going to come their way. I also want our society to realize that Congress is the one who appropriates the money for the VA, not the president. I go to the Tucson VA. It's not perfect, but it's really it's better than anything I could get in the civilian world. And the women clinic, especially in Tucson, is one of the best there is. And I've been to several VA, like around the country when I've been visiting. I don't even go to private practice. I go to the VA here in Tucson. So you need to look at each individual VA and find out what's wrong. But to blame Obama for something that Congress did more than 20 years ago, that's just not cool.
Rachel, you bring up a very good point. Congress, where do they fit into all of this? Because after all, they're the ones who appropriate the money. And Republicans, not surprisingly, have rushed to politicize this. You've heard Mitch McConnell and John Boehner not call for Shinseki's resignation, but put a lot of the onus on Obama and the treatment of veterans under his administration. But Republicans, I believe, if I'm not wrong, have on a number of occasions sought to reduce funding for the Department of the VA, and at times they've blocked measures that would have expanded benefits. Are they the best messengers here? And are people even aware of that? When there's a scandal, it's always going to be on the White House.
Well, and it's interesting because the kind of big picture pushback we've heard from this caller and the big picture perspective is exactly what we're hearing from the White House right now. This is not a problem that started under this president. Of course, this is a president who campaigned, who during his first campaign came to office pledging to fix the problems with the VA. But at the same time, these problems didn't begin with him. And so, that's a line we've heard from the White House. This is a line we heard from the president during the press conference when he kind of came out and made his kind of first big address of the situation last week. And, it's a line we'll continue to hear from them.
One quick question before we let you go is, where does this leave Senate Democrats who are facing tough re-elections? They've been holding their tongue. But those who are not yet in Congress, Allison Lundergan-Grimes, Michelle Nunn, they did call for Shinseki's resignation. Is it awkward?
I mean, it's the White House has said from the beginning that Senate Democrats, those who are running for re-election, they need to be able to kind of make their own way. And this is not going to make for, is it going to make for the most comfortable of discussions? Not necessarily, but at the same time, the White House understands this. And again, we may yet see Shinseki exit, in which case they'll look very prescient. So.
Yeah, well, I can certainly see probably some of those vulnerable Senate Democrats not holding on too long if it really affects them in their states. But Rebecca Sinderbrand from Politico, thank you so much for joining us. She's their deputy White House editor, whom you can follow on Twitter at Sinderbrand. We're going to take a quick break, but we will be talking to you soon.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime. I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live.
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas.
I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to The Bill Press Show. I'm Sabrina Siddiqui with the Huffington Post, and I am still here filling in for Bill. I have not left the scene.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Doing a great job. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to come back anytime. I had planned to flee the scene, but I figured I'd be a little nicer. You were tempted this weekend, my understanding is to flee the scene, though. Tell us what it was like to go couch shopping with your kids.
Look, I had a decent Memorial Day weekend. Like, we went and saw X-Men, as I mentioned. We did some outdoor stuff, but Sunday we did the whole couch shopping thing. And if you are thinking about having kids, or you and your loved one are thinking kids are for you, you're welcome to borrow my children for a day and go and try and get just like couch shopping is already not fun. Try doing it with 2 kids who just hate everything about the experience. Like, they're in the car forever because we're driving all over the place to different furniture stores. They're angry, and then when you finally get to the stores, you know, they do things like stand on the couches. You know, like,
they're just like running around the stores screaming.
I mean, they weren't. I mean, they weren't like complete animals, but they just do things that you're just like, come on, this is already hard enough. Like, we're already having a hard enough time shopping for couches, and you're doing stuff like like standing on couches and yelling about how this couch looks ugly.
If we already accept that kids are the best form of birth control, the most effective form are your kids. Is that what you're saying?
Find me, borrow my children. I should rent them out. Like, that's a service.
Rent an Ogburn?
Yeah, that's it.
Rent an Ogburn
That's
child.
it.
I really want to meet your kids. You should bring them on this show.
One of them's been on.
Oh boy. Well, maybe we'll talk a little more about Peter's kids. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll see you soon.
This is the Bill Press Show.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org to let us know your thoughts.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I'm a Piston fan. Their slogan was, we come to work. That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got. A lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. Not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing,
because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself blood pressure or paying bills.
754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old. And I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for. I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed, or whatever. We're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to The Bill Press Show. I'm Sabrina Siddiqui with the Huffington Post, and I am filling in for Bill today. Hopefully you've been keeping up with us on Free Speech TV, which you can catch on DirecTV or Dish Network, as well as TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. You can even like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Bill Press Show, and tweet us at BP Show. I'm here with Peter Ogburn, our executive producer.
Hi, Sabrina.
Always terrifying.
Hour 3. Wait, me or hosting the show?
You.
I'm always terrifying. Sugar Pie Ogburn? Me? Come on.
I've got Elisa Murphy running the board. Hi,
hey,
Elisa.
Good morning.
And Alicia Cruz is screening your calls. So if you give us a call at 866-55-PRESS, she'll be sure to answer them. And then we've got Cyprian Bolding, our video operator, who's making sure you can see us today. And we have my friend, my also partner in crime, Chris Moody.
Good morning.
He's obviously a political reporter at Yahoo News. You can follow him on Twitter at Moody. Chris, this is maybe part of our, we've talked on this show about our sitcom. Is this...
That's right. Well, this
is like reality TV.
The reality, Sabrina and Moody Do Washington was born here at the Bill Press Show. And this is the culmination of all of our hard work.
This is the culmination.
Here we are. We're taking over.
We're taking over. Because you're here, it only makes sense to talk about Jay Carney at the Black Cat.
Naturally.
Jay Carney is a Guided by Voices fan, and he was there Saturday. We could actually hear him. Let's take a listen to our favorite press secretary.
Guided by Voices.
So for those unfamiliar, the Black Cat is a rock and roll bar in Washington, D.C., near U Street and 14th Street.
Yeah, very popular kind of dive bar among reporters who are more than often found there on Thursdays or Fridays or Saturdays.
Or Tuesdays or Mondays.
Or right
Wednesdays.
And he did it right now. Right now.
And they have got a lot of good bands that come through there. So I'm a fan of Guided by Voices. I've seen him in concert a couple times. Their shtick is, so their frontman, Robert Pollard, has been like, he's the only mainstay of the band. The band like changes every 6 months or so. But he comes out, and there's a cooler of beer on the stage, and they just play until he has finished that cooler of beer. They just keep going. And so I saw them in South Carolina several years ago when I was a younger man, and he came out, and he lights a cigarette, because that's what we do in South Carolina, and he has this lighter, and he says, "Hey, we played here about 6 years ago, and I bummed this Chairman Mao lighter from some guy named Ryan. Hey, Ryan, are you here? Hey, there he is, Ryan. Here's your lighter." And threw him the lighter. It was this magical moment from the stage. It was so cool.
Yeah, I can't say I'm familiar with their music, unfortunately. I'm not as cool as Jay Carney, apparently.
No, he's very hip.
He's very hip. We will get into some conversation about politics, but first, Peter, what do you got for us?
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Tesla Motors continues to take over in California. They unveiled a new plan to add 500 new jobs by the end of 2014, which now makes them California's biggest auto industry employer. It's a big move as they continue to expand, and they're unveiling a new battery operation that they'll be building batteries, so even more jobs are expected after this year. So it's going to be a huge business there.
Isn't that right after another motor company just hundreds of jobs fled for Texas just recently?
Yes, indeed, and I'm blanking on what it is, but yes.
One of the big motor companies,
Yes, absolutely. From the sports desk last night, the Miami Heat moved up on the Pacers 3-1 in their series. They beat the Pacers 102-90 over in the West on Saturday evening. The Thunder and the Spurs, Thunder fought back and brought that series 2-1. Spurs were looking to go up 3-0, but the Thunder came back with Serge Ibaka, the score on that 106-97.
Boom goes the dynamite.
I'm always happy to see Tony Parker lose.
Oh, come on. What's wrong with Tony Parker? You don't like Tony Parker?
So like smarmy.
He's the best.
Who cheats on his wife with his own teammate's wife?
Okay,
basketball players?
Womp womp.
I give you that. And Memorial Day, a lot of people were cooking out, grilling burgers. Any guesses on what the number one topping is on burgers? Number one topping, what do you put on burgers? Americans in general?
Cheese?
Pickles.
I'm sorry, number one is
bacon.
Ketchup,
okay.
But you could put ketchup on a burger.
I put ketchup on my burger.
Come on,
I do. I put ketchup on mine.
Ketchup on burgers?
Yes.
No way. Of course.
No,
we're doing a newsroom high five right
mustard
there.
on a burger till I die.
Yeah, ketchup and mustard.
Oh, come on.
They're delicious together.
Sacrilege. All right, number one is ketchup.
I like jalapenos on mine.
I like a jalapeno on mine. Number one is ketchup. Number
Some raw onions.
Number two, onions. Number three, tomatoes.
Lettuce?
Number four, lettuce. Bacon also on the list at number 8.
Eight?
I know. This is America. Bacon is on the list at number 8. Mayonnaise at number 7.
Mayonnaise
at 7. Pickles number 6. And barbecue sauce is 10.
I think I could go for some barbecue.
If you're in the mood.
Yo,
I always do. I'm a no tomato kind of person, though.
Bacon, cheddar, barbecue sauce, onions.
This morning I was making eggs, and I put buffalo sauce on my eggs, thinking it was hot sauce, and it was the most delicious eggs I'd ever had.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a wonderful accident.
I am now so hungry, and I blame Peter.
I'm sorry.
Where's my burger?
Sorry.
You were supposed to bring me a burger.
Chris usually comes in with his breakfast smoothie.
I drank my vegetable smoothie before I came. Sorry, Sabrina.
Right. Well, no smoothie for me.
Sorry.
Well, thanks, Peter. Chris, we've got a lot that we could chat about, and I want to bring up one of our favorite topics, Benghazi. Benghazi, as Nancy Pelosi said a couple weeks ago, just because last week Democrats were pressured into participating in the select committee that was established about a couple weeks ago, mostly on a party line vote. You know, Republicans keep telling me, no, 6 Democrats voted with us. 6. Not a large number, but how does this decision, I want to know, play out for Democrats who were ridiculing this committee and continue to do so as just a political stunt, but now they have to participate?
Well, you're right. Most of the Democrats voted against having the committee, but then obviously decided to appoint Democrats to the committee, and there's a precedent for that. Republicans have done the same thing. They want to have a Democrat or Democrats in the room because they know that no matter what, the media are going to cover the Benghazi hearing, and if they're completely left out, they have no control over the message. If they're not in the room, they have no access to the documents, and they have no access to the witnesses. And by completely abstaining, you're just handing possibly months of a media narrative to the Republican Party. And I think it was smart for them to appoint people, and now they have to have people they have appointed people last week, and hopefully that they'll ask good questions and obviously put some balance into the committee.
No, that's exactly what I was hearing from a lot of folks that I talked to on the Hill, certainly on the Democratic side, that they did not want to not be in a position where they could respond, especially given that Republicans have selectively released some information before on Benghazi. It's not something that they've necessarily shied away from. But one of the issues here is the questions that this committee is looking to answer. Democrats are arguing that most of these questions have already been answered. So what is it about then? Is this about 2014 and midterm elections? Is it about 2016 and Hillary Clinton? Is it none of the above or a little bit of both? Multiple choice.
I think no matter what you're talking about in Washington, it's always about the next election in some way. The Republicans know that they have a pretty good part of their base that wants to hear more about Benghazi, and it gives them something to fuel that base. I think you saw John Boehner really struggling with his Republican conference. Remember a couple of weeks ago, he made those comments about immigration when I think he was back in Ohio, where he's kind of making fun of his conference and just like, please don't make me vote on immigration.
Please don't make me do this.
That's actually exactly how he said it. I didn't. He wasn't really giving them anything, and this is something that he can kind of give the base and say, here, chew on this for a while. And you know what? Maybe they will come up with some new information, but right now the questions that they're asking, a lot of them have been answered, so they're going to have to come up with a few more questions, I think, to answer them that weren't already in the documents. But by bringing out Hillary Clinton, possibly bringing out John Kerry, it risks embarrassing high-profile Democrats. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's going to be good for them for 14, and if it's Hillary, obviously 2016.
Well, the question I have about this, one thing that John Boehner wasn't clear on, because it hasn't really been determined yet, is a timetable for this investigation. Mm-hmm. And if Hillary is one of the targets, and certainly the RNC has made her one, even though she has yet to announce her candidacy, it's assumed, and they have gone on the offensive over the last year. It would not be too early in some sense, though, because we're still, as much as elections start earlier and earlier after each cycle. If there is something to blindside her now, how would that play out 2 years from now? I mean,
you're right. Well, people do have short memory spans, but this could also work for 2014. I mean, I feel so cynical talking about it like this, but I think we have to be, right? The Benghazi attack was 2 years ago, and the Republicans believe, if we're being uncynical for a moment, that there are still questions left unanswered, and they want to bring these high-profile Democrats to come answer them. I mean, I don't think that they're timing it to climax in October 2016. I don't think that's really the point. And it takes several weeks to put these together. But Republicans risk overstepping. We saw this in the 1990s when the head of the Government Oversight Committee, to prove that he believed that the Clintons had murdered someone, he shot a watermelon-looking head-sized fruit in his backyard to prove, quote-unquote, that the Clintons had killed him. And I talked to Lindsey Graham. He's a senator from South Carolina. He's like, if we're shooting watermelons in our backyard, we're probably on the wrong track. Okay. They are working.
Lindsey Graham.
Yes, of course, always good for a quote. So the Republicans are very cognizant that they risk overstepping and looking like they've overdone it. And so they're going to work very hard to try to make this as respectable as possible.
Well, also from South Carolina, one of Lindsey Graham's counterparts in the House is Trey Gowdy, who has been appointed to lead this committee. And it will really be up to him, I think, to determine whether or not they overstep. Do you think that risk of overstepping is why they did not appoint Darrell Issa? Our resident Benghazi expert?
That is a whole side drama to itself. Lifetime original sitcom between Daryl Issa and John Boehner. Because Daryl Issa had an ongoing investigation of Benghazi and had been looking into these things for the past 2 years. And to appoint a select committee almost says, well, you couldn't get the job done, Daryl. Mm-hmm. We're giving it to Trey.
He's still going, though. He has a hearing, and he's...
it's ongoing, right?
And John Kerry is going to testify before Daryl Issa's committee, which is kind of a slap in the face to the select committee. I don't know if it's a part of the administration to try and appear now, and then they don't even have to have John Kerry go before the select committee. Mm-hmm. But Daryl Issa clearly is not stopping, though.
Oh, no, he's not. The thing is, in Washington, whether on red team or blue team, there are fights between red team internally and blue team internally. So there's going to be some tension here, I think, between at least some of the bigger personalities in the committees.
It really, as much as we don't want to be cynical about this, since it's happening, it could very well make for a lot of entertainment in the months ahead, given all the drama around it, and that a lot of this will be public. But we'll talk a little bit more about that after the break with Chris Moody, political reporter at Yahoo News. Follow him on Twitter at Moody, and we will be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach
likes
your kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
on your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to The Bill Press Show. I'm Sabrina Siddiqui with the Huffington Post, politics reporter, and filling in for Bill today. And I'm with Chris Moody, my friend from Yahoo News. He's a political reporter. You can follow him on Twitter at Moody, and of course check them out on yahoonews.com. Peter's here too, lurking in the background. I feel like I should also say hi to you.
She says with such resignation.
Peter's still here.
Peter will not leave.
No,
Hour number 3 of Ogburn in the studio.
Chris, we're exactly 1 week after, last Tuesday's primaries, where there was, a lot of talk centered around big losses for Tea Party candidates in some of the most heated primaries of this year in Georgia, as well as Kentucky. And we're also a week out from another set of big primaries, Mississippi, where Tad Cochran is looking to fend off a Tea Party challenger, as well as Iowa, where you have an upstart candidate, Joni Ernst, taking on CEO Marc Jacobs, not to be confused with the fashion designer, as someone may have been for
I just learned there's a fashion designer named Marc Jacobs.
No, I just wanted to put that out there because you never know who's thinking like Marc Jacobs. But
I was foremost fashion designer.
Duh.
But Joni Ernst, Chris, can you tell us a little bit about who she is? I know you know a little bit about an ad that she put out, which has drawn some comparisons to Sarah Palin.
So Joni Ernst, she grew up on a farm in Iowa, and she's gotten a lot of endorsements from big-time Republicans. She seems to be the one that people are really promoting and putting their money on. But she ran this ad that was most famous when she talked about, I grew up castrating hogs, and I'm going to go to Washington and cut the fat, or something like that. Cut the pork. That was right. I'm sure a couple men and lawmakers in Washington were just like,
Yeah.
All right. But, I mean, it's an analogy that I guess you kind of makes sense.
Cut the pork.
Cut the balls off the government.
Yeah.
That's what Republicans 2014.
Does that stuff play well in Iowa?
Of course, I think it's something that, it's an analogy to coming cutting. And I mean, if you come in to talk to your constituents and you say, the federal deficit is this many billions of dollars, and I'm going to cut 4.7% up. Like, that doesn't make sense. Cut the balls off. Oh, I got it. Can I say that on the radio?
You just did.
Yeah.
Republicans are campaigning on cutting pork. Democrats are in a little bit of a tough spot. They've tried to kind of focus around income inequality, as they did successfully in 2012, women's issues too. But the White House wants them to embrace Obamacare, kind of go on the offensive. Not all Senate Democrats are buying it. Allison Lundergan-Grimes and Michelle Nunn, we really don't know what they think of Obamacare. I don't think that they're kind of muddying the waters a little bit.
They are. I mean, there's a lot of Democratic candidates running in places where Romney in 2012 won big time. And they have pollsters and they have people that advise them that say, this might not be very good for you. You need to find a way to split hairs here. And so what they're saying is, I wouldn't vote to repeal Obamacare, but I don't like it that much, but we can work to fix it. And that's what we're seeing a lot of Democrats testing out right now. But at some point, they're really going to have to be on the record taking a firm stance. That might happen in a big interview. It might happen in a debate. But you better believe that Republicans want to get those candidates on the record as firmly as possible. And right now, they're trying to skirt the question.
And Mitch McConnell, too, trying to skirt questions, because more than 400,000 people have signed up for the Kentucky exchange. It's one of the most wildly popular examples that the administration has pointed to. But he told reporters who were asking him how Obamacare repeal would affect those 400,000 Kentuckians that the Kentucky exchange is unconnected to the Affordable Care Act. Food for thought, Chris.
So Mitch McConnell is a man of he knows his words. He knows exactly how to say things. But no, I mean, the exchanges, right, were set up through legislation, if I'm not mistaken, and people are signing up through this. It wasn't the federal government that set up the Kentucky exchange, but it was Kentucky, but it's part of the overall law. It's tough to separate those two, especially because you have years of media reports calling them the Obamacare exchanges, and a lot of Republicans calling them the Obamacare exchanges.
Yes, I don't think that you could so easily just pull them apart like you said. I think he's in a tough spot. Allison Lundergan-Grimes, while not really embracing Obamacare, has said she would not repeal it because of those 400,000 Kentuckians.
This is where Republicans get in trouble when they say they want to repeal Obamacare, because by now and over the next several years or months, people are going to begin to rely on it for their health insurance. And then the Democrats can come right in and say, and now you want to take away 400,000 people's insurance plans. Turn it right back on the Republicans, just like they did when people lost their insurance when Obamacare came in.
Absolutely. And, even if the state were to keep its exchange, it would certainly be a complicated process. And there's still the Medicaid expansion. Would people be kicked off of that? There are a lot of questions, of course, pre-existing conditions. Kids under 26. Our friend Chris Moody, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, you can follow him on Twitter at Moody and check his work out at yahoonews.com. We will be right back after this break. Keep on watching The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Racing down. I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is The Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to The Bill Press Show. I'm Sabrina Siddiqui with the Huffington Post, and I am filling in for Bill today. Hopefully you are keeping up with us on Free Speech TV and TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV, tweeting us at BP Show, and giving us a call, 866-55-PRESS. My friend Lucia Graves, National Journal staff correspondent, is with us now. You can follow Lucia at Lucia_Graves. Hi, Lucia.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming here. Lucia and I used to work together at the Huffington Post.
True story.
So technically...
So wait a minute.
With Arthur...
Hang on. So we had Arthur Delaney in earlier. So that was like a little Huffington Post radio. Now you have Lucia in.
Who's a HuffPost veteran, so...
Yeah, it's a grand conspiracy.
Was Sam Stein busy or something?
Hey.
No, I didn't mean it like that. I just meant you couldn't book any more Huff posters.
Sam Stein is... I don't know. Sam Stein ever up before 9?
No.
Actually,
he doesn't come on our show
Sam
anymore.
Stein is like up at like 4 or 5 in the morning regularly.
He doesn't come on our show.
So I'm not going to say that because that's just not true. But Lucia, you've often written about women's issues, and we've been talking about the shooting and stabbing to it near the University of California, Santa Barbara, late Friday night. And how Elliot Rodgers had very misogynistic views that were detailed in a manifesto, in YouTube videos that he had posted. Also, he was part of a lot of groups, something about pickup artists that, train men how to basically get, I don't know, how to pick up women, really, right? Now, what we've been trying to figure out is what are basically hate crimes against women are not characterized as such.
Well, I think what's really interesting about the shooting and horrifying about the shooting is it so clearly connects the dots between rape crimes and violence against women. You look through his 140-page manifesto, which is terrifying, and in the first pages you have him talking about his desire, sexual desire to own women's bodies or like have his way with them, and later in the same manifesto he's saying, well, if I can't have them, I'm going to kill them. So it just like very clearly draws the line between rape and violence in a way that I think could be useful in the argument going forward to classify rape as a hate crime.
Well, that's I think a really interesting point that hasn't been raised is, how does the rape culture kind of fit into all of this? Because what he's implying is that he has ownership of a woman's body.
That was my takeaway from it, by the way. And as I was reading some of this stuff online, like it's nice to be reminded, as I know a lot of people that listen and watch this show and how I live my life, that there are these problems out there when you see women tweeting about their stories and how men have approached them. It's a helpful reminder to know that stuff still happens, even though you might not witness it as a man. Like, I don't witness it as a man, right? But like, it still happens, and it's ugly.
Well, because one of the things that we were talking about was this Yes All Women hashtag. And the stories that are being told, we encourage people to, of course, share their stories with us if they want to. A lot of people just aren't aware of what women go through on a day-to-day basis. But do you think that this is a turning point, maybe, in terms of looking at how women are treated in society?
I think that it could be. I think that it's sort of an ongoing evolution, what gets classified as a hate crime. And, traditionally, the people who construct our laws have been people who are not as familiar with rape culture, namely men, or people who haven't felt as threatened by it. And I think that as you see those dynamics changing, you also will see like public awareness changing and maybe laws changing in the near future.
When it comes to law, this one story that I happened to come across over the weekend, so the timing could not be more, I think, important because it sheds light on the criminal justice aspect of it. And there was an Indiana man who was found guilty of repeatedly raping and drugging his own wife. He confessed to the matter, and the judge sentenced him to 20 years, but not a day in prison. 12 of those years were suspended, 8 years of home confinement, but not a single day in prison, not when there was no doubt that he had in fact repeatedly raped and drugged his wife. in terms of a justice system perspective, it seems like we really haven't made much progress on the issue of rape and putting rapists behind bars.
And I think that's part of what's so terrifying. You know, when you look through his sort of screed that he's published, I'm talking about Elliot Rodger now. People want to write it off as, oh, this man was insane. He had no idea, you know, what he needed to be on medication. But the scariest part of it is if you look at sort of the tenor of what he's saying, you can like roughly trace the values of American culture and extending from the way we think about women and to the justice system and just, you know, the idea that...
And just the way we talk about them, you know? I think that, you know, there seemed to be, from his perspective, you know, he seemed to not be even saying anything controversial. He said it all very matter-of-factly, that I'm the alpha male and women, you know, always choose brutes, therefore they shouldn't be given a choice with whom they can mate.
Right.
And as if that's just a generally accepted fact.
And a matter of justice. He keeps talking about it in these terms of it's not fair.
It's not fair to him. Right?
Right. You know, other people have had happier, more sexually fulfilled lives than me, and it's not fair. The problem is women. It's just like he so clearly does see it as a justice issue, where he is the person wronged.
He's the victim. You know, and I think that kind of fits into something that you wrote about in terms of the way that we talk about it and why I think some men don't even see it as a serious issue. You had a piece not too long ago on National Journal called Embracing Rape, and that was around the White House's push to curb sexual assault across college campuses. But it still ties into this broader discussion. So there's a push by some universities not to use the term rape, but to call it something else. So what do they want to call it? And why not call a spade a spade? Why not say rape? Because it seems to then undermine the crime itself.
Well, so the Obama administration is just trying to get colleges to get women to talk about rape more and get more reported, get more rapes reported and dealt with. But one of the dangers there is by encouraging people to talk about it without giving them a lot of guidelines for how to talk about it, is that the term rape will be shied away from. And people have advocated for the use of the term non-consensual sex as a way of sort of lowering the barrier to discussion, to get people to not be so squeamish about engaging in it. And you know, college administrators don't want to think of any of their students as rapists, which is what you have to do when people come forward with these charges. So I think that that's the danger, is that we will allow the terms to be whitewashed as non-consensual sex when it's actually violence.
Yeah, right. That non-consensual sex does not, I don't think, convey the same sentiment that rape does.
No parties at guilt. It was just non-consensual.
Yes. I mean, you're implying that there isn't one party that's an aggressor and that is a criminal, committing a criminal act. And I think it does come down to what you said. There are just colleges and universities that don't want to accept it. They think like, oh, well, this student, it's one of our students. Yeah. How could he have done this? You know, he's not a rapist, because they see rapists as stranger approaching you, you know, when you're trying to get into your car from an alley somewhere and grabbing you and committing that act of violence. They don't see it as date rape, which is still rape. They taking advantage of a girl who's drunk. If she never gave you her consent, that's rape. Pressuring girls when they're not comfortable, that's rape. If they have said no, they said no. And I do think, you know, we've just seen this movement away from holding those people accountable.
Right. And there are two parts of it too. There's, you know, whether women come forward and report things at all, and then there's whether the school or any sort of authority takes action to stop it. And these guidelines seem very focused on the first part, you know, getting people to talk about it. But, you know, if how you talk about it whitewashes what happened so that no action is taken, it's not really progress.
Yeah, if you talk about it in a more watered down way, then the consequences will certainly be more watered down. But we'll talk a little bit more to Lucia Graves after this break. Keep watching The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine. Virginia Tech.
Tucson.
Aurora.
Fort Hood. Oak Creek. Newtown.
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 How many more? How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough. 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 Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American. As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook. Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act. Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to The Bill Press Show. I'm Sabrina Siddiqui, political reporter at the Huffington Post, and I'm here as a fill-in host for Bill. Today, hopefully you've been keeping up with the show. There are many ways you can do that, and one of those ways is on our TuneIn app using the Progressive Voices channel. Of course, catch us live on YouTube at TawkrTV. That's youtube.com/TawkrTV. Tweet us at BP Show, and we are continuing our conversation with Lucia Graves at National Journal, we were talking, of course, about Elliot Rogers and this horrific mass shooting, and as well as multiple stabbing that he committed against both his roommates as well as women. Women were the target of his rampage in California late Friday night. And we wanted to get into, this hashtag that stemmed from it, Yes, All Women, because I think that, people are sharing stories and people are aware of it, but they don't really know the meaning of it. And Lucia, can you tell us a little bit more about what the hashtag actually means?
Yeah, sure. I think that most of us have been in a conversation at some point where we're talking about the treatment of women or misogyny, and some guy in the room will sort of jump in and say, yes, but not all men do that. Mm-hmm. And there's been, a lot of media making fun of that. And the most recent backlash is the response, not all men are misogynists. That is definitely true. But yes, all women have experienced this misogyny in some form, whether it's, watching how much you drink and having to watch your drink at a party to make sure it doesn't get drugged, or being worried about walking home, or just all of the things that surround rape culture. And so I think this is a way of highlighting, no, not all men are misogynists, but yes, all women have to deal with this.
Now, and that's interesting too, because one of the other things that's drawn a lot of attention in the last couple of years are a lot of these high-profile cases. There was Steubenville, Ohio. There was another one too out in the Midwest, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but basically a lot of young high school girls who were drunk at parties and then raped, and then they were blamed. There's a lot of victim shaming and victim blaming.
I grew up in the South, and I grew up in a heavily Southern Baptist community, right? And so there was a very big boys will be boys mentality about stuff like that, right? Which I'm hearing less of the more I get older, right? And then I've removed myself from that a lot, but I know it's still out there. Yeah. And I obviously, as I grew up and grew out of that, moved on. But it was refreshing for me personally, as the father of two boys, to read the Yes All Women hashtag all weekend and sort of like check myself a little bit moving forward. And it's something everybody should do.
And the boys will be boys is a big part of this, because this pickup artist issue, I think, gets at that argument. Can you tell us a little about the sites that Rogers was frequenting that seem to be part of that culture?
Well, sure, yeah. I mean, originally he was part of this pickup artist community that sort of rates women on a scale of 1 to 10, and then seeks to coach men in how to get laid with a woman who I think is rated a 7 or above. And this system failed him. He still didn't land any dates with any women, and so he joined a pickup artist haters online forum, which you would think might be people who are denouncing this like degradation of women or how they're treated, but no, it's just men who are mad they couldn't get laid and are like going after the site for essentially not working for them personally. So
it's not exactly a step forward. It's not like he realized that like this is wrong. He's just mad that it didn't work for him.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they've responded also by not drawing the right implications, that they could have coached him better.
Yeah, right. That was one of the most disturbing reactions I saw online, was the pickup artist community saying, oh, we could have prevented this mass murder if we'd gotten to him sooner and gotten him laid sooner. This never would have happened, which is just so incredibly backward. It's terrifying.
It's awful, because it goes back to the idea of entitlement, and that yes, in fact, he was entitled to have had sex by this point, and he just wasn't successful. We could have done more to make him successful in that pursuit, not done more to teach him how to actually respect women. But I'm assuming guys who are rating women on a scale of 1 to 10 are not showing that much respect for women to begin with.
Yeah, it's a good point. But I don't want to make too broad of a point out of this, but like it's a widespread accepted problem. I mean, when you look at, there are movies that gross multi-millions of dollars that are all about guys just trying to get laid before the summer, or I got to get laid before I get out of high school.
Yeah.
And like, it's totally accepted. I saw a preview for a movie this weekend where these two guys are posing as cops, and they're resisting whether or not they should answer a police call. And the police call comes through and says, 3 women, early 20s, possibly intoxicated. The guys are like, yeah, let's go. So they go posing as cops. It's like, that's a movie coming out today.
And they project those messages that normalize it.
Right, and that's what's so terrifying about it. Like, his dad is a Hollywood producer, not to bring any blame on the family, but he is saturated in that sort of media and the Hollywood culture. And if you listen to what he's saying, like, I was supposed to get laid in college. I'm 2.5 years in, and it hasn't happened. Like, this is unjust. Everything that I've always heard said that, this is what happens in college. Like, that's what's so terrifying, is it almost, like, you can almost hear the movie script, you know?
Absolutely.
I mean, the American
immediately.
Pie movies that we saw, of course, in middle school and high school were very much centered around that idea that there is a deadline.
Yeah.
And you are not a man. I mean,
right.
in the movies, sure,
You're a
it's
loser.
consensual in the movies, but women are not exactly depicted as the smartest of human beings. They are certainly objectified a great deal. And the idea is you're a loser, and you are not a man. It's just a question of your manlyhood.
It's not force, but it's also a conquest. And the movie, it's portrayed as a conquest.
Right, and this is just like someone who seized on these like sick American values and just took them a few steps too far.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. I mean, to me, that's been one of the most horrifying things, and I really hope that this sparks more of a conversation around how we view women and what their standing is in our society. Lucia Graves, thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget to follow Lucia on Twitter at Lucia_Graves. We're going to take a break, but we will see you soon.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. When I say done, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to the Bill Press Show. Sabrina Siddiqui with the Huffington Post. I was filling in for Bill today and had a blast as usual. Peter,
thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing this. We love having you in.
I love being here. I love being here both as a guest and a guest host. Bill, when does he come back?
He's back next week.
Oh, so he's out all this week.
He's out all week.
Where is he?
We have a cavalcade of network stars to fill in this week, and we're glad you could kick it off. I'm not sure where he is.
Is Evan McMorris Santoro one of them?
Evan McMorris Santoro is in tomorrow. Clinton Yates is in later in the week. It's going to be a fun
I am
week.
his opening act?
Yeah.
And you've set the bar fairly high.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I think that Evan will do a great job.
Evan does a great job.
He does
you
do
a
very
great job.
good job.
We have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to people who can actually sit in that chair and do it well.
So last time someone tweeted what I thought was appropriate that Evan and Clinton Yates, it's like a party when your parents are out of town.
That's about right. That's about right.
And you will spend the rest of your week here, but also couch shopping still?
Okay, there's been some evolution on the whole couch shopping front for those of you following the saga.
With bated breath.
I'm sure. I'm nervous because we've made the jump into maybe we should look for something online. And I'm not sure how I feel about that because I know it's 2014. You can buy stuff online, but I'm gonna need to I need to sit on it. I need to check it out. And what are you gonna do? You gonna return a sofa? You gonna return a whole couch?
Maybe.
What a hassle!
I mean, this is the story that people will be following this week.
Even work?
Every development will be documented right here on the Bill Press Show. I don't know. I can tell you though that as usual, I had a great time, and I hope to be back soon.
Yes.
Maybe in that chair over there.
Yes.
Maybe I'll take your job and I'll start sitting in that chair over there.
Sure.
But thank you so much for tuning in. Sabrina Siddiqui signing off. Keep watching The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.